Mr. Chairman, while Antigua and Barbuda makes this presentation on its own behalf, I wish you to know, sir, that we are also fully associated with the statement that will be made on CARICOM's behalf by the chair of the CARICOM ambassadors, Ambassador Gilchrist of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. But I will proceed now to make my delegation's own statement. Mr. Chairman, my delegation recalls that consistent with the Inter-American Democratic Charter, to which all our countries are signatories, the peoples of the Americas have a right to democracy, and their governments have an obligation to promote and defend it. Yet today is 141 days since general and regional elections were held in Guyana on March 2nd. 4.5 long months have passed, and still there is no election result. In the meantime, 4 other Caribbean countries have held elections, and elected governments have assumed office peacefully, most notably the country nearest to Guyana, Suriname. Mr. Chairman, being entitled to enter the Guinness Book of Records is usually for a remarkably deserving event. However, Guyana has now been inscribed into the pages of the Guinness Book of Records for the unworthy event of having achieved the longest delay in the world's history between an election and the declaration of its result. Democracy, Mr. Chair, is not being served, nor is the people of Guyana's right to democracy being served. And democracy delayed is democracy denied. Since March the 2nd, the Guyanese nation has been subject to one delay after another that has dragged out this process, testing the patience of a tolerant international community and tempting protests and civil unrests within Guyana. It will be recalled that CARICOM was invited by the parties in Guyana to play a role in the elections shortly after disputes arose over the tabulation of the March 2nd ballots. The invitation was extended jointly by the President of Guyana and the Leader of the Opposition with the agreement of the Guyana Elections Commission, GECOM. There was good reason for this invitation to be issued and accepted. Repeatedly, CARICOM governments, including Guyana's, have expressed through various public instruments their commitment to democracy and popular participation, and they have pledged to work together to maintain and strengthen the institutions and processes essential to democratic government, including respect for the will of the people as expressed through free and fair elections on a regular basis. In playing a role in Guyana's elections, CARICOM did no more than carry out the requirements of the CARICOM Treaty, by which in its preamble, every CARICOM government accepted all the various agreements, including a charter of civil society, which the Conference of Heads of Government adopted on 19th of February 1997. Article 4 of that charter, under the heading Political Rights, declares that states shall ensure the existence of a fair and open democratic system through the holding of free elections at reasonable intervals by secret ballot, underpinned by an electoral system in which all can have confidence and which will ensure the free expression of the will of the people in the choice of their representatives. In this regard, as we have heard, CARICOM sent a team to Guyana with the agreement of the parties and the Elections Commission to scrutinize a national recount of the ballots of March 2nd. That process was also observed by representatives of the OAS. The national recount that was certified by each of the supervisors of each of the regions in Guyana showed that the People's Progressive Party had been allotted the majority of votes. But despite the best efforts of CARICOM, utilizing all its institutions, including the final appellate court, the Caribbean Court of Justice, one party has persistently delayed acceptance of the result and this frustrated a democratic and peaceful end to this matter. And it is not as if an aggrieved party does not have recourse if it can establish that allegations of elections irregularities are valid. We heard both the speakers for the two political parties who spoke here today confirm that there is an elections court to which allegations can be taken for judgment after a result has been declared. Now, the former chair of CARICOM, Prime Minister Mia Mottley of Barbados, after months of CARICOM trying its best to bring about a democratic solution to the elections impasse, stated, and I quote her, "Regrettably, we have seen a level of gamesmanship that has left much to be desired and has definitely not portrayed our Caribbean region in the best light. This is definitely not our finest hour, and we must not shy away from that reality." Yesterday, in a third round of court hearings on this matter, the Chief Justice of Guyana, Justice Roxanne George, dismissed yet another case brought by representatives of the APDU-AFC political party. In particular, she ruled that the case seeking to block GCOM from declaring the winner of the elections using the recount results was hopelessly flawed. It should be noted that the issues raised in the case had already been the subject of extensive hearings and judgment by the final appeal court, the Caribbean Court of Justice. The current chair of CARICOM, Dr. Ralph Gonsalves, the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, has described the judgment of the court as lucid in every material particular, making the point that as Guyana's highest and final appellate court, it is authoritative. In her ruling yesterday, the Chief Justice stated quite firmly that there must be finality to judicial decisions. Myriad persons cannot be permitted to engage the court with multiple applications regarding the same issue which has been decided and shield behind that claim that they were not party to the previous proceedings. To so permit would be to waste precious judicial time and resources. In short, she said, this cannot be allowed. She went on to note that the issues raised in the application were res judicata, in that they were already heard and determined by previous judgments of higher courts. Yet the representatives of APDU-AFC have today, through their representatives, filed another appeal to the Guyana court against the rulings of the Chief Justice. This new appeal and its consequences could take until September 1st before the full cycle of hearings and judgments end. Democracy is being delayed, Mr. Chairman, and democracy delayed is democracy denied. It should be noted that GCOM has not been able to declare a result of the election process because supporters of APDU-AFC are encouraged to take the matter to the courts again and again and again. Were this not so, GCOM could have made a declaration long ago. Mr. Chairman, the role played by the OAS in this matter has been exemplary. Secretary General Luis Almagro responded to the Guyana invitation to observe the Guyana elections and kept the mission there long after every other mission had left. Further, the Secretary General maintained an observation mission in Guyana throughout the national recount of the votes scrutinized by CARICOM, a total of 34 days. Displaying tolerance, restraint, and care, the Secretary General allowed CARICOM to take the lead, providing support where necessary. But eventually, as every genuine effort has been made and ignored, and against the reality of growing impatience by the international community and within Guyana itself, Mr. Almagro declared, and I quote him, "The peoples of the Americas have a right to democracy, and their governments have an obligation to promote and defend it. It is past time that the current leaders of Guyana comply with their democratic responsibilities and allow the newly elected chairman to take its place. And that, Mr. Chairman, is where this matter has now reached. Every member state of the OAS cares about Guyana and its people. None of us takes a political side in the elections impasse. Our only interest is the preservation of democracy and the rule of law. It is democracy that is now threatened, with implications to the Caribbean region and our hemisphere. It is democracy that we must defend and ensure is delivered. The troubling situation in Guyana should be kept under this Council's review and returned to this Council for action should the Secretary General consider it necessary. Thank you very much, Chair.